I'm here. I know I've been here. Okay. I will call the Beaufort County Police Committee meeting to order. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into that. Could the person that's... Let me turn this on. Could the person that's filming the meeting come up front for just a minute? Oh yeah, better shut off your cell phones. Hey, look, is all the equipment operating properly? We're not going to have one of these things where we don't pick up the sound or the audio or whatever? Okay, and do you happen to know if the last committee meeting was put up on the county site?
Yes.
On the public site?
Yes.
When does it show?
It's usually the day after.
Okay, but I mean, what time of the day?
Oh, you mean,
You're talking about TV site.
I'm talking about the TV site.
yes, on, you talking about this meeting?
Yes.
Channel
No.
9, City Channel 9.
No.
Why not?
I've not been instructed to do that.
You are now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this meeting is always supposed to be viewed by the public. It's a public meeting.
I think any meeting filmed should be.
Yeah.
Automatically.
Well, and especially when we get our channel rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
She's at the mercy of other people.
I know.
So
I know she's going to have to tell them they told me to do this, and you tell them he told you to
Well,
do
the other
this.
people I'm talking about is like Sudlink or the city.
Yeah.
So you've got to go like they go, and they don't go so fast.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. The first item is to approve the agenda. Is Mr. Nixon going to be here this evening?
He is, he said that, he said 7 o'clock before he could get here from work.
All right, if we're still in session, yeah, he sent me an email somewhat to that effect. But if we'd like to add to the agenda, what's his name, Mark Nixon?
Yeah, Bobby Nixon.
Bobby Nixon. We'd like to add Bobby Nixon to the agenda as an agenda item to hear from him. All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, that would be the change in the agenda. Does anybody else have any comments on the agenda? Okay, all in favor of approving the agenda signify by raising your right hand. Thank you very much. We will now go into public comments. Anybody can speak that wants to during the public comment session, and it is open at this time. We have no public comments. All right, we will move on. We have the next item on the agenda is an update by Bruce Gray on his situation. So Bruce, Mr. Gray, if you'll come up and just give us a thumbnail of what's going on. Is there an investigation and who's helping you and all that sort of stuff?
First, I'd like to ask a question that we all should be interested in, and that's why would the Sheriff's Department, the DSS, and the court system not be interested in helping with a criminal organization that sex traffics women and children here? Because that's what's going on. And we can't seem to get any help. In fact, I've spoke about all the threats that have been made to us, and through, like I said, I didn't know anything about it until my child was 6 years old. She went with her mother. Her mother called me and asked me if she could go to the beach with the girls that she worked with, and supposedly what was a house cleaning business. My child, the woman that runs the business, called me up and told me my child wanted to come home early and asked if I would be home. Her mother didn't call me. Some girl that I didn't even know brought my child home. That's when my child told me what they were doing, and that they weren't taking them to the beach, and they were held up in motel rooms, a bunch of them, with men coming in and out. And so I called the lady back up that supposedly runs this business and let her know that I found out what they were doing. That's when she threatened the first time to kill me because not letting them use my child in this criminal organization. I had worked with David Richards before he became a police officer at Park Boat Company, and had worked on his boats. After he did become a police officer, I was the one he called to work on his boats. That's what I do. And I thought that he would be the person to call to figure out how to turn these people in. And asked him to come to my house by himself. Well, he didn't come by himself. He came with Russell Davenport and Mike Holloman, and which told me that they knew all about these people. I was not to turn them in, and I'd better keep my nose out of it. That was the first threats that I got through the sheriff's department and the district attorney's office.
Alan Jordan, the sheriff at that time?
Yes. It weren't long after that Ernie Coleman became sheriff. I tried to work with the sheriff's department for a year and report what was going on, and could get no help, just kept getting threats to not be turning these people in. After I couldn't get any help there, I also had called and left messages to try to get up with the sheriff and report this. No callbacks from him or from after later with Ernie Coleman. Then I went to the SBI in Greenville, Walter Brown, and he let me know that I worked with him for a year. And he told me that he had looked into what I had told him, the reports and everything, and he said everything I see you said is true. He says, and I've told the sheriff's department they need to do an investigation. I said, well, do you think they're going to do one? He says, nope, I sure don't. He said, and we can't make them do one. The only two people that can even ask us to come in has to be the sheriff or the district attorney. And I said, well, you don't think that the people that are actually threatening me and telling me not to turn these people in are going to do an investigation? He says, no, I do not expect them to do an investigation. And I went to the FBI, and the FBI pretty much told me the same thing. They couldn't do anything without being asked. But they did tell me, being that I was telling them that the sheriff's department wouldn't do anything about these people, that I needed to call the National Organization Against Human Trafficking and report it to them, which I done, and made several reports, quite a few. And that's where, well, I mean, we are pretty much now. When at 11 years old is when I got threatened also by the DSS, Barry Johnson, not to be turning these people in. In fact, he told me if I said one more word about the prostitution, he would take my child from me and place her with her mother, who is in this. Let's see. There's so much stuff that has happened.
Well, I think at the moment, we would like to know what progress is being made in the investigation. Is anybody helping you, assisting you?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Barry, at 11 years old, my child was actually raped. Her mother tied her to the bed and let a man rape her in this criminal organization. They said that I hadn't turned it into the proper authorities. That's how they ended up taking my child for a time from me. And when I went into the sheriff's department to meet with the investigating officer, he, who was Brad Shackelford, he told me, he met me in the hallway with my child and the lady from DSS, caseworker, in his office. And he said, are you Bruce Gray? I said, yes, sir, I am. He said, it's only prostitution. And that's all that contact I've had with Brad Shackelford, the investigating officer. He won't respond. That's.
You guys have questions?
When you say, I'll go ahead. When you say you are being threatened for reporting these names or events, who are you reporting to? When you say you report or you're...
Well, the first time I would say was David Richards, and then of course he brought Russell Davenport and Mike Holloman.
So you're reporting to the sheriff's department in this case?
Yes.
And they're just telling you to stop?
That's right. And they've been out to my house several times, different ones in the sheriff's department, and told me they know about it and I'm not to be turning these people in.
Hey, Bruce.
Hey.
Reason I'm not astounded by what I'm hearing is I've heard most of this before.
Yes, sir.
And while it is extremely discouraging for me to hear this, knowing that we had a 3-4 vote not to ask for an outside investigation of Mr. Gray's problems. We're not an investigative body. We could be, but we are better suited not investigating, but asking for others who are more competent than we are to
That's
investigate.
all I've been asking for, too.
Taking it out of our hands. Even had the chief deputy for the Coleman office even agree that that might be the best thing, just to clear the air, so to speak, if I remember correctly what he said. But we had 4 commissioners up here, 2 of the Democratic Socialists and 2 of the nominal Republicans, came together, as they do collude and talk to one another and decide how they're going to vote, and decide it would be best if we don't know anything. If we can stay in the dark and there will be no transparency on this terrible situation that your family's been involved in by no effort of yours or your 11-year-old and 6-year-old daughter back when she was 6 years old. And it would be good, as to quote the words of the chief deputy, to clear the air and know what the truth may be.
Exactly. That's all I want, is the truth.
I think it's encouraging that you're begging for the truth. I mean, that tells me you're an honest man.
I try.
So why can't we find the truth? I mean, that's scary.
That's exactly my
government.
question at the very beginning of this, is why wouldn't people be interested in finding out?
I thought the solution...
There's a lot of children that are involved, not just my child.
I thought the solution was the letter to the Attorney General. I just could not believe. I mean, what would have hurt?
Well, actually, I wrote a letter to the Attorney General, and I asked him about looking into this, and he wrote well, actually, the letter came back to the county attorney. The answer came to the county attorney, who put it up on the internet, on our website, to the commissioners.
Emails.
To the emails. You got it by email, the answer from the Attorney General. I've never gotten a letter from the Attorney General yet. So
I've not been contacted.
I wrote the Attorney General this weekend a letter, and I said, do you usually feed out your communications to your privileged buddies when you get these things? I mean, how does this really work? Tell me how this works. So it's just another great example of the system failing. And I understand that the prosecution and the investigation is left to local authorities. He can't investigate everything, but that does not mean, as he indicates, he has no powers in this, and I don't really think that's true. I'm not expert in the law, but I can't imagine that not being true, because ever so often the SBI comes through and investigates the sheriff on their own. I guess the district attorney asked them to.
I assumed that too when I got up with these SBI and FBI.
Yeah, but and we have sheriffs that are removed from office as a result of these investigations. But this whole thing comes back to why we have a police committee, if I can digress for just a minute. And the reason we have a police committee is to try to find justice for everyone, not just a privileged few. And I would point out to you that if we had a police department in Beaufort County, it would be the chief of police that would be making the request from the SBI for these investigations, not the sheriff. he is not politically elected. So he doesn't have to kowtow or cater to anybody to get their approval. That he would be independent if we went to a police department in Beaufort County, and that's one of the really big advantages is that it would be totally independent. That chief of police works for a county manager, and the county manager is hired by the Board of Commissioners. So you've got 7 commissioners, you've got a chief of police, and you've got a county manager that you can appeal to. Right now, you only have one person to appeal to.
No accountability.
And no accountability, and you can't find the guy.
No, he
So-
won't talk to me.
He won't talk to anybody. So you've got a problem here that needs to be fixed. We're a democratic republic, a democracy. We use democratic principles with a little d. And so when you have a politically elected sheriff who owes his allegiance to the people who elected him, not all the people, just the people that voted for him, and he goes out and hires deputies who helped him get elected, you hire political deputies and he can fire them for no reason whatsoever. Does that sound like a democratic principle? It doesn't to me. It's not even close to a democratic principle. And why the people of North Carolina have been willing to put up with this for these hundreds of years is beyond me. And actually, our system comes down from the English system where the king appointed a sheriff. And the Magna Carta was the first inkling of a democratic form of government that served everybody, is when the nobles went to the king and said, the jig is up. If you want to stay king, we want these things. And 1/3 of the items that is in the Magna Carta addressed the abuses of sheriffs. The sheriff at that time was appointed by the king. He wasn't elected. He was appointed by the king, and they said, you're going to stop doing the things that you're doing. The one that sticks in my mind is, one of the provisions of Magna Carta is the sheriff may not take up abode in any household. What does that tell you? He was moving in wherever he wanted to move in because he was the sheriff. He was the king's man, and he did what he wanted to. So this was the first example of reining in the autocratic power of these people. So thank God for that. And that was in about the year 1200 or so, somewhere in there. It's been a long time. And we're still living with a sheriff system that is based on a fiefdom. And that shouldn't be.
The sheriff's department has put it on court papers that I haven't turned it into the proper authorities. And yet, I have now got a lawyer that's has gotten up with the lawyer from the National Organization Against Human Trafficking, where I've been turning it in, and he let me know, and we're getting ready to have that paperwork very soon, that the attorney from the National Organization Against Human Trafficking told him I had made several reports about these people, and they had reported it to the Beaufort County Sheriff's Department, which is what the FBI told me. That's why they told me that that's what I needed to do, was because the Beaufort County Sheriff's Department was trying to keep it covered up and say I hadn't turned in anything, and it's very soon I'm going to have the proof of where I had.
Okay. Okay. Do you have the... Does anybody have anything else you want?
Yes. Well, we know you've talked to Hood for a number of years.
Yes.
I've become aware of it in late September, and then we had you back for the October meeting,
Yes.
which I'm getting ready to put up on my publication, Beaufort County Now. It's segmented, just you, and there will be an analysis of that, of such. It is an issue. I do know that there are other candidates running for sheriff that thinks what's happened to you, your non-investigation, is an issue. Why? Because this government, where we serve as the pleasure of the people, as a committee, as county commissioners, this is your government. It's your government. It's your government of all you people that sit in the audience, all you people that may be watching this. This is your government. This is not an exclusive elitism zeitgeist for people who are in power and know how to stay in power. This is your government. You can vote for us to remain, and you can vote for us to leave. And we need to listen to you, and we need to serve you. Not to the exclusion of others, but your situation is one that it begs to be researched, to be understood, and it needs to be investigated. And you've asked for the investigation. It's rightful that happened. Now, we're getting ready to go into the next item, Hood, and I think what we're going to talk about in that next item is going to have a lot to do with some of the things you and I and Randy just said about the way governments run in Beaufort County, run in North Carolina, the way they should be run, alternately. So I just want to know, Ms. Gray, I guess you can take your seat, but at some point you might want to stay because we're going to be talking about something to be of great interest to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. The next item on the agenda is to give you a little background on this so that people understand what's going on. We have had some real pushback from Representative Kidwell. Representative Kidwell says that he will never introduce legislation to have a police force in Beaufort County. And he cites his reason for that the sheriff gives us super constitutional protection that no other official can possibly ever do. And he's been challenged on this to give us the proof of why this is true. And to do that, he has cited Randy, can you name the guy that wrote the book?
Yeah, it's about Sheriff Richard Mack. It's called The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope.
It's about 50 pages long. And he sent me a glossy original copy of it. And you guys got something on email. I don't know whether you got something in the mail or not. But Representative Kidwell says that the sheriff is the only thing that can save us. And I asked him if I could quote him on this, and he said I could. He claims that the local sheriff can order the federal government out of the county. And that if he says they don't come into the county, they don't come into the county. Well, let's just stop and think about that for a minute. He may be able to order them out of the county, but they go to a federal judge and get a court order. You know, it's a matter of cooperation among the agencies. So I've read the Sheriff Mack book. It's about 50 pages long in bold print. And I'd rather let these guys start off commenting on it because they have looked at it too. And I think that we will see when this is all over with that this is a pipe dream. So who wants to go first?
I will. I agree with everything Sheriff Richard Mack wrote. I thought it was very interesting. I liked the part about how the name sheriff came about, and it's the 11th century. King of England appointed a representative called a reeve to keep the peace in the county, which was called a shire. So a sheriff, evolved from those two words. I thought that was interesting. And you know what, if our mission here was to get rid of the sheriff, this would be a good reason not to. But that's not what we're here for. And I think every meeting we have made some mention that we are not here to get rid of the sheriff. And once again, there are parts of what we're talking about that are really good, and that is having more people look over an issue cannot be a bad thing. Really, it can't.
Yeah, the sheriff is so powerful that he can order the federal government out of the county. Regardless of who the sheriff is here in Beaufort County, couldn't he order for an investigation of a rape of an 11-year-old child? What Representative Kidwell is saying, that sheriffs in Beaufort County have been such moral, good people that they will always do the right thing. And they're our perfect representative. Get behind them, and they'll get behind you. I will say this, the sheriff is a politician, irrespective of who it is, irrespective of what party they come from. politicians sometimes tend to let you down. They don't always do the right thing. I will argue that the People's House in the United States Congress is the most perfect governing body we have in the United States of America. Why? Because there's more representatives, and they represent closer to the people. Okay? There's 435 of them, 100 senators. The People's House, right now, Speaker non-patriot Pelosi is in charge. She will not be in charge in less than a year and a half. And it will be back in the hands of people who believe in justice and self-government, and moving back away from authoritarianism. Now, if the sheriff is so powerful, then he will be prone, or she will be prone, to authoritarianism at some time. I think it is better to allow the rulemaking, policy-driven bodies of government to be diffused between more people. I look at it from a mathematical standpoint. You got a good sheriff, you got a 100% chance everything's going to work out right. You got a lousy sheriff, you got a 0% chance everything's going to work out right. You got 7 commissioners, you got some kind of chance things are going to work out right, even when Hood was the only one up here that had any ideals whatsoever. Now we got 3 sitting on this committee. That's a 43% chance you're going to get something done right. I'm willing to bet you, if push comes to shove, you might get another commissioner to come along and do the right thing. It's all about putting government, the people's government, back in front of the people and let them know what's going on, because they can vote us out a lot easier than they get rid of a very powerful sheriff. And that's what it's all about. If we're going to have a representative republic, a representative government, you have to have as many good people in as possible, and they got to know they can be removed. Actually, I've been thinking lately about what's been going on in Beaufort County, what goes on in North Carolina. It might not be a bad idea if we really work hard for recall elections in North Carolina. And think about it. We get these guys up here, and they say one thing. They don't want people to see what we do at these meetings. They want the very poorest representation or presentation of the meeting possible, and they'll go tell everybody else what's really they think is important for them to know, and excluding everything from the folks that need full transparency so they can know and understand their government. So I say just by the elimination, just by the process of math, we can eliminate and decide what's the best form of investigatory policing that we can have in Beaufort County. And that would be as many people with their hands in the pot as possible. And some of those people are going to be some strong hands, and they're going to do what's right. We would have done what's right back in October when Mr. Gray came to us. If we just had one more strong hand. That's all we needed, one more strong hand.
Well, I'm going to do a little, remember when you were in school and you had to do book reports? I'm going to do a little book report on this book. I've read the book. Randy's right. I don't agree. I agree with everything that this fellow has said. Sheriff Mack is a very conservative person. My summary is that he's probably a libertarian because he's about as far out as I am on some things that have to do with government control and how harsh government can be. So he's correct in what he says. Where this thing goes wrong is Sheriff Mack keeps harping on, I'm sworn, all sheriffs are sworn to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Therefore, they have constitutional powers. No, that's not necessarily true. They're sworn to protect and defend the Constitution, but that doesn't give them constitutional powers like Representative Kidwell believes. I take the same oath. Commissioner Walker takes the same oath. Commissioner Deatherage takes the same oath.
And I'd like to add, I've also read the Constitution many times.
Yes.
And that includes the North Carolina
And some people haven't that seem to be experts on it.
And I read the general statutes pertaining to certain things that are important before this board.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
don't need an attorney to tell me what's what.
Well, I don't either, but they claim that these powers are laid on the sheriff and are not laid on those of us who take the same oath. It is the responsibility of all of us who take that oath of public office to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. Do I feel like I've been given any constitutional powers? Not really, no. Protect and defend what's already there. I'm not a part of the Constitution. There's nothing that is written in the North Carolina State Constitution, the federal Constitution of the Bill of Rights, or anywhere else that says that a sheriff has any special powers. This is what I keep asking Commissioner Kidwell. Show me in writing, in the documents, where the sheriff has this power. He doesn't have this power. We set policy as elected officials all the time. Police, city councils in directing their police forces give them direction at all the time about what to enforce and what not to enforce. I just saw on TV last night where a small town in California instructed their police department to not enforce the governor's mandate that everybody in town had to wear a face mask or they couldn't go to a restaurant or whatever crazy stuff they're doing out there. They instructed their police department not to enforce that order of the governor. Boards of commissioners, although our board of commissioners doesn't want to do it because, as Commissioner Deathridge says, it's essentially run by Democrats who are true believers in government. We can instruct and direct the sheriff. We can instruct and direct certain things. We have as a board voted not to enforce forced mandates for wearing of masks. We voted on that. That went through. That's a great example of the board protecting the Constitution, because we don't think that's in the Constitution that the government has the power to do that. We are no different than the sheriff in enforcing these things. And for Representative Kidwell to use that as an excuse that he is not going to help us in this effort because he seems to know more about it than we do, is a serious problem in an elected official who doesn't understand any more of the Constitution or what his oath is and what his duties are than he does. And I have digressed for a minute. I have always wondered why so many people thought the sheriff's election was so important. And about 20 years ago, I figured it out. And the reason is they want to be buddies with the sheriff so he will do them a favor if they need it. It's political power is all that it is. And with the police committee, we will be stripping the politics out of law enforcement. Then we will get true law enforcement because you don't have it now. You have the sheriff's opinion about what he's going to do or what he's not going to do, and that's all you're getting. And really, can you tell me that we can elect 100 sheriffs in North Carolina who are going to view their job the same way in every county? There is no way. So this is a really bad system, and it's high time that the public, we started changing this so that people have honest and fair government. There's a lot of things that happen in sheriff's departments that shouldn't happen. Witness the jail incident that took place some 40 years ago. When you look at that and you find out that the sheriff didn't do anything that was legal insofar as that was concerned, he was covering for his people, was what caused a lot of the problem, is a bad situation. Sheriffs are removed just about every year in North Carolina from office because they abuse their powers. And these are seized powers that are seized from the public. And when you have weak boards of county commissioners like we have, they can do just about anything they want to. That is true because we don't try to control the sheriff. And the money for the sheriff comes from the taxpayers to the commissioners, and if we don't fund the sheriff, then he can't really do anything. There's a statute in North Carolina that says the minimum that the county commissioners are mandated by law to give a sheriff. It's amazing at what it is. What it is the state law says that we must give the sheriff 2 cars and 1 deputy. That's a far cry from the 100 people that are in the sheriff's department right now. So you tell me who has control and who doesn't. The commissioners do. If only, as Stan says, you can elect commissioners that are strong enough to do their duty.
Yeah.
So, but the book itself is a good read. I recommend you probably get online and read it. Sheriff Mack is right on target with his opinions and what he believes. Where it goes astray is that he has these special constitutional powers that he doesn't really have. And he has a policy power, a strong policy power, just like commissioners and the people that he works for have strong policy powers. But the sheriff is not a king. We're not in the 1100 before the Magna Carta was written. We're not that far back. They did then, but they don't anymore because we have a democratic republic and the principles of democracy still apply. So, does you guys have anything else you want to say?
Yeah. This is an important part of the meeting, and I think in a lot of respects, some of the words we're speaking right now is the reasoning why we're even here to begin with. The Constitution of the United States Bill of Rights give each person the sovereign right to determine their future. This is the people's government. That's why we have to have full transparency so people will know what's going on. People have the right to vote. We are a representative republic, therefore they pick their representatives, and those representatives need to do what people expect them to do. Not maybe want them to do, but expect them to do, and that is to follow the Constitution. We should all do it. The sheriff has no more powers. I will admit one thing, the sheriff is the highest elected official in the county. But other than that, the sheriff has no more individual powers than the Board of County Commissioners moving as a board. I will argue the county commissioners in the county is the strongest government in the county because it represents more votes. It represents more people. And again, it's a mathematical thing. You got a great sheriff, you got a 100% chance he's going to do the right thing most of the time. You got a lousy sheriff, you got a pretty bad chance he's going to do the right thing. You got a strong board of commissioners, you've got a very good chance. You got a weaker board of commissioners, you still got a good chance that things are going to get done right, even if you only get 4 out of 7 votes, like we have here in Beaufort County with the 7-member board. So, I would like for the folks to take away, that hear this reasoning of mine and our board, our committee, to take away that they have the voice to determine what happens in Beaufort County. They can determine if Mr. Gray gets a request from the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners. A year and a quarter from now, Mr. Gray can come back, and if we have a new Board of Commissioners, he'll get his investigation. And we'll have record that request was made years ago. So he is going to get justice one way or the other. If I get reelected, I'll see that. I promise. So I'm about done here. I speak for the people, and I think we all do.
Let me clear up some housekeeping before we go on. I neglected to do this at the beginning of the meeting. We had the discussion about the filming of these meetings and putting it out for the public to see. We thought this was going on all along because we had talked about this in about the second or third meeting when the Republican women and the Republicans came in and fussed at us about holding secret meetings and all that sort of stuff, and we agreed that this thing was going to be put up to the public. So what I think I need right now is a motion and a vote that these meetings be filmed and that they be presented on the public channel and all other channels the same as commissioners' meetings.
Well, I'll make a motion that we make a recommendation to the commissioners that these meetings be broadcast in every possible venue or platform is a better word, every possible platform. And it's up to commissioners, as you guys well know, to allow that to go forth or to stop it. And so lately, they've been stopping some stuff when it comes to transparency.
I think it needs to be stated that if the meeting is filmed, it should be broadcast.
Yes.
So every meeting,
Yes.
filmed must be broadcast.
Okay, I make the motion that this meeting, like every other meeting in Beaufort County that is filmed, be broadcast as soon as possible. On every platform accessible to the commissioners.
Second.
Okay. All right, is there any discussion? I'm the only one to discuss, I guess. I don't have any discussion. All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the trip to Gaston County. Now, we've had a bad thing happen, is the reason that we don't have a report on this. The manager was at the last meeting, and he agreed that he would put this thing together. What has happened? Yes, ma'am. Oh. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Gosh. This is something that's going to be changed too as soon as we get the votes.
I'd like to see all live mics.
All live mics, yes.
Live mics all the time,
Yeah.
100%.
This is another way of controlling people. That's all it is. Back to the trip to Gaston County. A bad thing has happened to us in the last week or so. The manager's wife's father passed away on one day, and the manager's father passed away the next day. So they're having a really tough time with this. Our sympathies go with them. The sympathies of this board go with them. And we're so sorry that this has happened, and that we wish them great success in dealing with this particular issue. So we really don't have a report tonight on the trip to Gaston County unless someone of you guys want to make some comments.
My comment is I'm ready to go, providing it's not conflicting with my busy schedule, and you have a busy schedule, and you have a busy schedule. We are not retired. We're all three working people. And we'll probably be working people long into our twilight years. When you get older, Hood, you'll probably still be working. when you grow up.
Does anybody have comments? Okay. I have a new business item here. Is there anything in new business that anyone would like to discuss? You know, I'll take a minute to go back and review this situation for the benefit of the public, since this is not being recorded and the public's not seeing it. Hopefully we get one of these things out so the public can see what's going on. It is not our intent to do away with the sheriff. The Constitution provides that the sheriff has certain duties, and those duties are to serve papers, provide bailiffs for the court system, and run the jail. Sheriffs in North Carolina have acquired their right to enforce law, criminal law, and civil orders, simply because it has been forced over on them because they had the deputies and the people that could do it, and it has sort of grown. There's a lot of law that goes with that. So we have no intention of abolishing the sheriff in his constitutional duties. Our purpose is to see whether it's viable or not to provide criminal justice and civil justice in North Carolina with a public police, non-political police force. I think the political aspect of this is what is causing the problem. So we do not want to do away with the sheriff. 2 counties in North Carolina have police forces, Mecklenburg County and Gaston County. Gaston County was the leader in this, and they went to the legislature and asked for special legislation so that they could have a countywide police force, and the sheriff would have to do his constitutional duties. And this was like 40 years ago that this happened. And there is special legislation out there that thoroughly defines the situation. And the good thing about it is it's essentially what we have been describing to the public. And I'll go over that again. I know I've been over it a bunch of times, but again, this filming is not getting to the public. You would have a police chief for the county, all deputies would be policemen in the county and not sheriff's deputies. The police chief would be hired by the county manager. The county manager is hired by the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners is elected. So you've got 7 people plus 2 people. You got 9 people right there. But in addition to that, you have a police committee. That's not exactly the right word, but it consists of 3 people. And those 3 people would hear complaints, not only from the public about the lack of enforcement, but they would also hear complaints about abuse from deputies or deputies who were not doing their job. They would hear complaints from deputies who had been disciplined by the chief. So that committee would provide a lot could go on with that. The committee would make recommendations under the system in Gaston County. Those would go to the county manager, not the police chief. They go to the county manager, then the county manager can send it back to the committee if he doesn't like what they've decided up to 3 times. And at that point, it would go to the commissioners if it could not be resolved between the county manager and the police committee. It could be appealed to commissioners, and then the commissioners would decide. So you have an open system of law enforcement that is just about as non-political as it can be, because the manager and the police chief, neither one are political. True that the commissioners are political, we can't escape that, but when we act as a board, we become a whole lot less political insofar as influence goes. Right now, you only have one person, and if he decides he's not going to investigate your crime, he doesn't investigate it. I'll cite as an example the letters that have been sent out to many people in Beaufort County, which say, in essence, we're not going to investigate the theft that was done from you because they didn't steal enough. Now, that's over $1,000. So those little criminals become big criminals over time. So this is a really bad idea about what's going on in the county. And the sheriff did not come to the commissioners and discuss this with commissioners. He just took it on himself to do it. And he can get away with that as long as you have commissioners that let him get away with it.
In fairness, that was the Alan Jordan office.
Yeah, it was Alan Jordan. I'm not so sure this sheriff hadn't done the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know
We're not going to know.
Yeah, we're not going to know. You're not going to find out because it's a secret police organization. So that just gives you some background on some of this stuff.
I've got a request, I guess, for future meetings. Wouldn't it be interesting if candidates for sheriff were to come here and tell us their thoughts behind the county police force, or how they would respond if they were sheriff and we were to have a county police force? What would they feel about that? Would that be something we could ask the candidates to come and...
I don't have a problem with asking them to come.
I don't have a problem either, as long as they stick to that subject. We don't want to become a public forum for anything other than what we do. As the commissioners are that other body that are supposed to handle that. If I could continue just for a moment. And I hate to bring up the same old horse, but God bless you, Mr. Gray. What if there was a commissioner group that had a police force and they decided not to investigate? You had a corrupt police captain or chief of police. You had a corrupt board or a weak board. I think a little bit of it would be corrupt. And it never got investigated. You would have still a sheriff with a few deputies and bailiffs mounting the jail, still elected official in the county. He himself could investigate or ask the SBI to investigate, couldn't he?
That I don't know right now.
I actually think he could. Maybe.
Well, maybe there's another
That would be nice to know. That would give you even more representation to do what is right on every circumstances.
We need to find this out when we visit Gaston County, because that's the whole purpose of the visit to Gaston County, to find out, to get the answer to these things, but that's a very interesting question.
Well, the fail-safe redundancy that we're talking about here cannot fail. I mean,
Yeah.
there's too many people involved. I mean, there's got to be a whole lot of people that are corrupt for this thing to fail.
Yeah, I think
The checks and balances are all there.
and right now we don't have the checks and balances with this board
No?
and this sheriff. We just do not have it.
We didn't have it with the last sheriff either, because they were afraid of him too. Have anything else they want to bring up, talk about, whatever?
I'm good.
The next item on the agenda, and I hope Mr. Nixon will come in, it's about, 6:40, 6:50?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the next meeting. I personally really don't want to meet in December. There's too much stuff going on in December. How do you guys feel?
I'm gonna have a hard time being available in December.
Okay. So would the clerk give us some possible meeting dates?
You have mentioned that you are not available the third Thursday?
That's correct.
Okay. You generally have been meeting the fourth Thursday, which would be January 27th, and it appears that that day in January is available. That was the week you had planned on going to Gaston County, but until we know
Yeah.
whether you're going to go that week or not, we could set that as the date.
What do you guys think? Sounds good.
We could go to Gaston County, so that we
Yeah.
Lean that way.
Okay, all in favor, signify by raising your hand. That will be our next meeting. So that will be our next meeting date. Excuse me for not pushing my button and asking permission. Any general discussion that anybody, I keep hoping Mr. Nixon will come in.
We're doing what's called stretching.
Stretching, yes. We can't stretch past really 7, because that would be a whole hour, but that's 9 minutes away. So if anybody has anything they want to say, they want to talk about, any more.
I actually just wanted to clarify something that you mentioned a little bit earlier. This meeting is being live streamed, and we do have it on the website the next day, and it is also offered on the YouTube channel. We just weren't told at the time that it needed to be sent to Suddenlink, and we could check into that, but it is being live streamed, it is on the website, it is on our YouTube channel, it is available, and it is out there.
Thank you so much for that. I would just like to see it on the TV channel, because I'm a dinosaur when it comes to this technology, and I just turn my TV set on the government channel when I want to see it. And that's really all we need to do then, is get it on the government channel.
And, with the piece of equipment that we're buying, we're going to have a government channel of our own, and all of these meetings, like I said, will be on there.
Well, since you're asking for the stretch, since it is, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know that. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. It's on the YouTube channel. My tech staff, will take that iteration that's on YouTube, and we will enhance it. We'll enhance the audio, we'll enhance the video. I will put it on Beaufort County Now as soon as possible, especially this meeting. I think we had a good substantive discussion at this meeting. And it will be on Beaufort County Now real soon in its entirety. And if you guys will allow that to be the last stretch, I move we adjourn.
Does anybody else have anything they want to present or say?
So how long?
Yes, ma'am. We will take questions from the audience, since we don't have 300 people out there
That's
asking.
part of the stretch.
Sorry. How long does the videos scheduled to stay on? Because I think the last one only stayed on like 3 or 4 days before it disappeared.
The live stream one, I think it does say about 3 or 4 days. However, if you go to the website, it's there, the Beaufort County website, it's there forever. We don't take those down off the website or off the YouTube channel.
Okay, maybe I just put my name on my dinosaur.
I'd like to say as well, Hood, with respect, it will be on BeaufortCountyNow.com for perpetuity, beginning with this meeting right here.
Good. Thank you so much for clearing that up, because I didn't know that. Okay. All right. I guess we will have to adjourn. To hear a motion to adjourn?
All right, I need a second.
All right. All in favor? We are adjourned.